So the Golden Globes were announced, and there was one surprise nomination in there. It's for Katherine Langford in her role of Hannah Baker for Best Actress in a Drama Series. That is for the show on Netflix, 13 Reasons Why. Katherine, I'm so tied to her as a character, released a statement with about her nomination, just saying thank you. She says, quote, "Words cannot express my sheer excitement and gratitude for being nominated by the HFPA this morning for portraying Hannah Baker, a young woman whom I have come to truly love and understand." She goes on to say, "Most of all, my sincere hope is that the recognition continues to shine a light on so many of the important life issues and struggles we portray in 13 Reasons Why. I'm forever grateful to have been given this opportunity and will continue to work hard to bring dignity, respect, and grace to such a powerful character." So needless to say, this show was a lightning rod for controversy. People loved it, people hated it. So people have a similar response to finding out that she has been nominated for Best Actress in a Drama Series. Some people say the show was glorifying teen suicide. IndieWire pointed out earlier that there sometimes is a spike in suicide rates when it's depicted in the media, but that also can go hand in hand with perhaps there has been a spike in people seeking help because that was very prevalent in 13 Reasons Why. They always made sure there were resources available on the screen because the show was so difficult to watch and did deal with such issues that affect teens. So this is also from IndieWire. What they say is how to deal with depictions of suicide on the screen, especially in young people, remains an ongoing conversation. The season finale ended on the suicide attempt of one of Hannah's peers, and since the series has been renewed for a second season already, how this new installment plays out will add to the conversation. Amir, you and I watched the show, not together, actually at different times, and we had very different reactions to it. I want to know what your response is to her nomination.
I think it's really well deserved.
Okay.
Actually, I love Katherine Langford's portrayal of Hannah, and I think she was probably the best character in the whole series.
I mean, it's, to me, you saw just in the intro, they're so tied together. It's such a role that it felt so lived in.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remind myself she's an actress, she's playing a role. Hannah
she really
is
brought life
to
that character.
Right. So do you think that you can separate Katherine's performance from the reception of the show? Because a lot of people did not like this show and they felt like it was glorifying teen suicide.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people. And yes, and I am separating the two.
Okay.
Because I think of all the characters, she was the one that stood out the most to me. And it took me like 10 episodes before I actually got into it.
Yeah, because I remember.
I watched the first half and I was like, what the F is this?
Because I told you to start watching it. I said I'd watch 13 Reasons Why.
It's so cheesy at times. The dialogue is so bad other times, just like the things that happen. But then you become invested in the characters at some point, and the character that I was most invested in was Hannah.
Well, isn't that kind of the point? I mean, it's
I think everyone who watches it, like, you develop a crush on her. You're like, this is such a pure person. Why is everyone so shitty to her?
Sure. Sophie brought up a really good point. I was talking about this with her before we went to tape while I was getting my coffee, and she was saying that it's sort of, a lot of people it didn't sit well with them that she sort of got vindicated in death. That it sends the wrong message.
I think the message that the show sends, like, those criticisms are totally valid.
Okay. My hang up on the criticism of the show, and I think it's a good show, I enjoyed it, but I think that it's worthy of criticism, I don't think it's a perfect show at all, is that for some reason it became, people were pointing to it as this is the show that's dealing with teen suicide, as though other shows have not dealt with teen suicide. I think that this is the first show that I can recall that's centered around a teen suicide, but we're like, talk about like, there was Skins, I was pointing out there's a song by Reliant K that I listened to as a teenager called Faking My Own Suicide, which is about the faking your own suicide so that someone will realize that they love you and then coming back to life and being like it's like teens and suicide and like romanticizing suicide.
It's a fantasy a lot of teens have.
Struggling with morality, it's a thing that you go through as a teenager, for better or for worse. Maybe you don't, but a lot of teens go through it. I know that I sure as hell did when we're talking about Romeo and Juliet as well, but then this is different than that because we're talking about Hannah kills herself because of bullying, not through love, but that they still sort of romanticize that because she is vindicated and people see her side of things only after she died.
Yeah, but she's also doing it to get back at everyone. And that's like the whole point of the tapes, right? Is she wants these people to like feel like they're to blame for her death. And that's fundamentally something that I and a lot of the critics of this show disagree with.
Right.
At the end of the day, like, you can't blame anyone else for your own suicide.
So what do you?
I mean, like, there's a lot that like may lead you up to that point that's gonna make you do that, but you're the one that's still making that decision.
So what do you think about people that are saying that this may have led to a spike in suicide attempts, and then versus people that say this might have led to a spike in people seeking help? Do you think that's a valid argument to have? It's so difficult to sort of prove.
I don't. It's very difficult to prove if it's solely based on this show itself. And I don't want to make some kind of judgment without like looking at like actual numbers and facts, because like we got a lot of these stories and we cover them too on this show, but I don't know, is correlation, causation, like you can't really. I think overall it started a dialogue about these really real things that teens go through.
So
and that's an important step.
Yeah.
Is the way that they talked about it and they did it in the show the best way? No, it's not. But it's something, and it's shedding light on something that's very real that I think historically media has not represented very well.
And so explicitly, I think. I mean, the death scene is incredibly difficult to watch. Also, it's one of a number of different teen issues that they cover, whether it's struggling with your sexuality, just sexual stuff in nature that teens go through. I totally agree with you to the degree that the show started a conversation. I think that's why this show kind of holds a special place in my heart, because I have had so many debates with friends at get-togethers when we were all sort of watching the show about people that hated the show and that people that felt it was wrong and it was absolutely misrepresenting and dangerous for teens to watch, and that people that really identified with the show and had this cathartic experience from watching it, and their own experiences with bullying that obviously never got to the point of attempting suicide, but going through those thoughts and watching the show and feeling in a sense that they themselves were vindicated because someone was telling this story that they related to. And in that, I think this show does absolutely have a place, and I'm excited to see what they do for a second season, because we need to have those tough conversations. Usually it's like you get one episode of Degrassi dealing with one of these things. Now 13 Reasons Why was heavy, it hit you because they're dealing with issue after issue after issue, and then that it culminates in the worst possible result, the death of Hannah Baker, which is like, it's gut-wrenching because, again, because of Katherine Langford's amazing portrayal of this character, you become really attached to her. I would find myself about 5 episodes, 6 episodes in, feeling so conflicted, like she's gonna be dead at the end of this.
And they're gonna show it.
And I'm gonna miss her. I wish I could help this character. And then I think back on this one conversation I had between like a bunch of my friends, and one girl was like, this show is garbage, and she really didn't like it. It was really bad for her. And then my girlfriend just kind of spoke up out of nowhere, and she'd been watching it. We weren't living together at the time, and she was watching it separately, and I knew that she really looked forward to watching it. And she said, she was like, I really have to say, I love this show. I was bullied in high school, and to see this representation, an honest representation of how bullying, how it can make you feel, has really resonated with me. And Lizzie is not one to sort of engage in that sort of debate at a party. And she just kind of came out of nowhere and was like, I gotta say, everyone was shitting on this show, and Lizzie was like, this show has a spot in my heart for some really poignant reasons. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. What do you think about Katherine Langford's nomination? 13 Reasons Why. You love it, you hate it, have you seen it, you haven't? What are your thoughts? Let's hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.